In the schoolyard, two dumb boys were seen beating a student named Jiang Junwoo, while a girl, Sunga, sat in front of them, casually drinking her yogurt. One of the boys who was hitting Junwoo told the other to continue, and the second boy replied that he would go one more round before both of them began hitting him even more. One of them remarked that Junwoo was such a strange boy and pointed out, laughing, that he had already started sprawling on the ground. The other leaned toward Junwoo and, in a taunting way, asked if he wasn't going to get up, telling him that they weren't finished yet, and mocking him by telling him to stay right where he was. Junwoo, who had been enduring the bullying, kept pleading for them to stop, but instead of listening, they continued and went on accusing him. Suddenly, a boy named Hyunshul appeared, calling out to the two bullies and telling them that they could stop there. One of them responded that they were only just getting started and that there was still more to do. Hyunshul told them that lunchtime was almost over and that they could continue once the lunch break ended. Both boys burst out laughing, agreeing with him, and then turned to look at Junwoo while saying that it was true. Junwoo lay there looking completely helpless. Hyunshul glanced at him and said that they would play more with him later when they were done. After saying that, the three boys began walking back toward the school building. One of them asked the others if they wanted to go to the internet cafe after class, and another agreed. Hyunshul laughed and also said he was fine with it. Once they had gone, Sunga stood there watching Junwoo, who remained in the same spot, helpless, with injuries all over his face. She then placed the yogurt bottle in front of him and told him that she hated this yogurt even though it wasn't anything special, yet somehow it tasted good. She said that it never felt like it was over instantly, and instead, whenever she felt like she had just started drinking it, it always made her feel strange. She then asked him if he could feel the same way. He remained seated there, still looking completely shocked and unable to gather his thoughts when she continued speaking to him. She told him that this was exactly that he resembled, saying that he was just like yogurt. She explained to him in a calm but firm voice that even though the feeling might be strange or uncomfortable now, that was how yogurt worked too. She reminded him that they were all already in the second semester of their fourth year, and that if he could somehow endure just a little longer, only one more semester, they would finally graduate. She told him that once they graduated, he would be free from all of this. She asked whether he had ever thought about it that way, and said that he should try to hold on just a bit longer. She added that after graduation, they would no longer see each other anyway, so he only needed to endure until then. After that conversation, Junwoo headed back to the hostel. The hostel was part of a small neighborhood inside the campus where most of the students who lived alone stayed. Inside his room, one of his friends, Heo Youngho, was sitting right in front of his computer screen. Youngho was clicking through several images of different women on the monitor, comparing them one by one and muttering to himself that it might be one woman or maybe another. When Junwoo walked up behind him, he told Youngho that he didn't understand anything he was talking about. Youngho quickly told him to wait for a minute, insisting that there was something important he wanted to show him. He explained that a special type of job existed on campus, a woman who sold yogurt exclusively to the college students who lived alone in that neighborhood. He added that she personally delivered the yogurt by walking around from building to building. Junwoo told him that he had probably picked up some pointless and exaggerated rumors. Youngho firmly insisted, though, that it was real this time. And he said there was a particular rumor about this yogurt lady that everyone kept talking about. While Youngho spoke, Junwoo kept thinking that the rumor about the yogurt lady was just another meaningless story circulating among students. Still, he remembered hearing once that one yogurt lady set aside yogurt specifically for male students who lived alone, which made him pause for a moment. Just as they were talking, someone came up to their door and rang the doorbell, calling out to ask whether anyone was inside. The voice sounded unfamiliar, and the tone suggested it might be someone delivering something. When Junwoo approached the door and opened it, he saw a woman standing outside holding a bag, and it immediately looked like she could be the yogurt delivery lady Youngho was talking about. He greeted her politely, telling her welcome, unable to hide how amused and surprised he was to see her. The woman looked at him with a warm expression and introduced herself by saying that she was the yogurt lady. He told her that yes, he needed the yogurt and thanked her politely, expressing his usual appreciation for her work. She asked him in a calm, routine tone whether he needed just one pack of yogurt that day, and he replied that one pack was right. As he stood there in the doorway, the thought crossed his mind that it had already been 3 full weeks since Miss Sohee had started delivering yogurt to him. She responded with a simple "all right," and leaned slightly toward her bag, saying that she would take it out for him. He watched her as she opened the bag and began searching inside for the yogurt bottle. While she did that, he kept thinking about everything Young-ho had told him earlier. He wondered whether those things could really be true. According to Young-ho, there was a yogurt lady who delivered only to students living alone in the neighborhood. If that rumor had any truth to it, then Miss Sohei might very well be one of those yogurt ladies. And if that was the case, then the stories circulating among the students about the yogurt lady weren't just meaningless gossip. They could be about her. She eventually pulled out the yogurt and handed it to him, saying, "Here it is." As he received it, he continued looking at her with uncertainty, his thoughts tangled between curiosity and embarrassment. He debated with himself in silence, thinking that he should probably ask her directly. Yet at the same time, the idea of asking her felt awkward, especially if she wasn't the person the rumors described. He told himself that it would be embarrassing, but still, a part of him felt that if he didn't ask now, he might keep wondering. While he was lost in thought, she turned slightly and told him that she would get going now. Realizing he was running out of time, he quickly called after her, saying, "Miss Sohei," stopping her before she stepped away. In a hesitant but sincere voice, he asked whether she would like to come inside for a little while. She turned back to him with a surprised expression. He quickly tried to explain himself, telling her that he was always grateful for the deliveries she made, so he wanted to offer her a cup of coffee. He added that there was also something he wanted to ask her, trying to sound casual even though he felt flustered. She continued standing there with a confused look, then told him that it was the end of her shift and she needed to return soon. Hearing that, he asked if that was so, and then, unable to keep himself from it anymore, he mentioned that he had heard from his friend that yogurt ladies provided a certain special service. She looked genuinely startled when she heard him mention the special service, as if the phrase caught her completely off guard. Seeing her reaction, he hurried to explain himself, saying that he meant that he would buy more yogurt, and he asked whether he could request that special service through his order. She stood there frozen for a moment, processing his words, and then finally responded by saying that she thought he must be referring to the new product sampling service. Her explanation surprised him, and before he could make sense of it, she added that she felt bad because the event had already ended the previous week. He stood there in disbelief, thinking that there was no way that was exactly what the rumors had been referring to. She apologized again, saying that she should have told him earlier, but she was always like this, forgetful and late with information. She assured him that if another event came up in the future, she would make sure to come properly prepared next time. At that moment, he realized just how badly he had misunderstood everything and felt that he had completely embarrassed himself. She told him that she would see him next week, and then turned around and headed on her way. After she left, he went back inside the room, grabbed all the yogurt packs he had stored, and began shouting to himself in frustration. He called Heo Young-ho a strange man, saying that Young-ho was truly weird and that he did nothing but spread ridiculous rumors. He complained that he should never listen to that chatterbox again. Standing there, he regretted bringing up the topic at all. The thing that bothered him even more was the fact that he hated yogurt to begin with because it constantly reminded him of someone who used to drink it all the time. If it hadn't been for that woman's persistent visits, he wouldn't have bought yogurt at all. He remembered how, at first, he found the door-to-door sales annoying. He had told her no several times and even insisted that he didn't want to buy anything. But eventually, he found himself getting used to the routine. Sohei would come to his place regularly, asking if he had been doing well and saying that she just wanted to give him one yogurt bottle. And whenever he asked about the prices, she patiently explained them to him. She always came with a bright smile, behaving with such warmth that it never made sense to him. He thought that someone as pure and pretty as her wouldn't be involved in anything physical or inappropriate like the rumors suggested. Still, a small part of him wondered if the rumors were somehow true, whether he would end up doing some cardio training with her, just as the stories described. Returning to the present moment, he jolted awake from his dream, his mind still tangled in the leftover embarrassment and confusion from the memories that had resurfaced. His heartbeat had not fully settled when a sudden knocking sounded at the door. The unexpected noise startled him, and he sat up straight, blinking in confusion. He raised his voice slightly, asking who was there. When he finally opened the door, he was met with a sight that caught him completely off guard. A different yogurt lady stood right in front of him, smiling brightly as if this were a perfectly ordinary visit. She looked at him carefully and asked whether he was a student, her tone polite but clearly practiced. Without waiting long, she asked if he might be interested in applying for yogurt delivery, saying that she could recommend a type that was extremely good for his health. He quickly told her that he was already receiving yogurt deliveries. However, she brushed off his answer with cheerful persistence, telling him that it was perfectly fine to receive more than one delivery service. She mentioned that since he was constantly studying and attending classes, it would actually be beneficial for him to consume plenty of probiotics. Then, leaning slightly closer, as if sharing something confidential, she said she had something particularly good available, and if he signed up, the yogurt lady providing the delivery offered a special service. Hearing that phrase again made him uneasy. He responded by saying he didn't want any free samples and politely asked her to leave. He began to close the door, but she quickly grabbed onto it with one hand, stopping it from closing. She told him not to act that way, insisting that he absolutely wouldn't regret the offer she was making. He repeated himself, trying to sound firm but still polite, saying over and over that he was fine and didn't need anything else. She let out a small exhale as if realizing that simply talking wasn't enough to convince him. With a lowered voice and a knowing expression, she told him that he must not have heard the rumor about the special service yogurt ladies supposedly provided for men who lived alone. Before he could react to her words, she reached out, grabbed his hand, and suddenly placed it against her balloon. The moment his hand touched her arm, a jolt of shock went through him. The yogurt lady began asking him whether the service was something he would naturally be drawn to, speaking as if she already knew the answer. Junwoo listened to her carefully and started to realize that the rumors he had heard were actually true. She went on explaining that students who lived alone received an exclusive discount, where the price dropped from 25,000 to 22,000 won, along with many mileage benefits. As he listened, it finally became clear to him that this woman was the very person everyone had been talking about in those rumors. She then asked him again if he genuinely wanted to register, reminding him in a confident tone that she had already said she would personally make sure he received the service. He looked surprised by the way she spoke so assuredly. She also looked at him with the same calm expression and mentioned that it must be stressful for a student to attend school, study, and take exams, and that having everything taken care of at once would feel like killing two birds with one stone. She added that it felt a little strange for them to continue talking at the doorway, especially because the weather was so hot, and suggested that they should go inside the house to discuss things more comfortably. He responded by saying that it was fine and asked her to come in, and the two of them walked into the house together. Meanwhile, at the park, Romy was sitting alone, looking absorbed in her phone. She complained to herself that she had gone all the way to the liberal arts building, only to realize she had made a mistake because it was actually a holiday. As she scrolled through her phone, she stared at Junwoo's contact, noticing that she had already sent him many messages, yet he had not replied to any of them. She began calling him, mumbling that she should have just phoned him earlier instead of waiting. At the same time, on the other side, Junwoo's phone started ringing, but he was too occupied with the workout session with the yogurt lady to notice it. He picked up the call, and Romy immediately asked him if he could talk at that moment. He replied that he could, asked her if something was wrong. She explained that she had called to question him about his recent actions and to ask whether he was free. She wondered if they could meet, and she reminded him that he hadn't eaten yet. She suggested that they should eat together and told him that she would treat him that day. However, he apologized and said that even though he wanted to go, he was extremely busy at that moment, so he couldn't accompany her. She kept insisting that he should come, saying that they should have gone on a date by now. She added that if he couldn't go right then, they could go later instead. She suggested that they could at least get some drinks that night and that she would even come to his place. But he told her again that he was very busy and said that he would end the call and talk to her later. After apologizing, he hung up. Romy stood there in complete surprise when the call ended. She thought to herself that it was terrible, especially because she had already made her feelings obvious to him. Yet he still wouldn't give her a chance. She felt frustrated, thinking that he was completely idiotic. Romy was actually his junior in college. Later, after he finished the wrestling battle with the yogurt lady, she told him that she had really enjoyed herself that day. She thanked him for applying for the yogurt deliveries and told him that if he ever missed her, he could call her anytime. She said that as long as it was him, he would always be welcome. After saying this, she walked toward the door, said goodbye to him, and he responded while sitting there drinking the yogurt, saying, "Yes, goodbye." She then stepped out of the room and closed the door behind her. After that, he lay down on the bed, thinking about how he had actually had a good workout session that day. He hadn't expected anything since he believed it was only a rumor, but he still couldn't believe that he had just done it with someone he had never imagined doing it with. He thought that this situation was going to be a problem for him because he had impulsively applied for 2 yogurt deliveries. He admitted that he had been looking forward to meeting Miss Sohee, but unfortunately, she hadn't appeared. He wondered whether it would be better for him to cancel one of the deliveries. In the afternoon, Sohei was sitting on a bench, slowly eating a cup of yogurt while trying to cool herself down. She kept thinking that the weather was becoming unbearably hot, much more than she had expected for that time of the year. While she was lost in her thoughts, another yogurt lady suddenly appeared beside her. The woman commented that Sohei was absolutely right, that even though it was still only early summer, the heat had already become this intense. She added that if the temperature was this bad so early in the season, then they were all going to suffer even more later. As she said this, she sat down next to Sohei in a relaxed manner and pulled out a cigarette, lighting it before taking a slow drag. As she exhaled, the yogurt lady casually mentioned that a lot of people who lived alone had started canceling their deliveries recently. Sohei looked at her with surprise, not expecting such news. The woman continued speaking, explaining that competition among the yogurt delivery businesses was extremely fierce these days. She pointed out that it wasn't like the old times when there were only 1 or 2 delivery ladies in an area. Now there were many, and each of them was trying hard to attract customers. She said that if one delivery lady didn't offer extra services or something special, her customers would quickly move on to someone else. She told Sohei that she needed to think about that seriously, especially if she wanted to keep her position secure. After finishing her point, she asked what she thought about the situation. Then the yogurt lady leaned a little closer and lowered her voice, saying that she had a special secret that helped her keep her customers loyal to her for a very long time. She insisted that she could teach Sohei a little bit about it. Even though Sohei came from a different business background, the lady claimed she could still give her some guidance, especially because competition was getting harsh. But Sohei immediately refused. She told the woman that she was managing things well in her own way and that she didn't want to rely on anyone else's methods. After saying this firmly, she stood up from the bench and said that she would get going now. The yogurt lady looked at her and asked whether she was leaving already. Sohei nodded and explained that she still had some deliveries left for the day. As she began to walk away, she politely wished the woman good luck with her work. The yogurt lady responded with the same phrase, but as she did, she muttered under her breath that it was pointless to work hard for hundreds of days, because in the end, she would be the one taking all of Sohei's customers anyway. A few days later, Junwoo arrived at his building. He felt exhausted as he climbed the stairs to his room, thinking about everything he still needed to do. He told himself that he didn't have enough time to properly study for his exams or finish his assignments. Although he had barely submitted them on time, he felt like he hadn't done them well at all. He realized he hadn't even eaten dinner because the stress had left him unable to concentrate or understand anything. He decided that once he got home, he would eat whatever he could find, even if it wasn't much. But as he reached closer to his door, he noticed someone standing in front of it. In his mind, he complained that he would rather drink than eat anyway, and he thought that he might just go out later to have a drink and clear his head. However, when he actually saw who the person was, he froze for a moment. It was Miss Sohei standing right in front of his door. She greeted him and mentioned that this was usually the time he finished school. She told him that she had rung the bell several times, but no one had come to the door. He was standing there, a little hesitant, looking at her and asking the reason she had come at this hour. She replied calmly, saying that she would get straight to the point without wasting any time. After saying that, she handed him a surprisingly large number of yogurt packets. He froze for a moment, completely taken aback by the sheer amount she had brought. She explained that this was the special service she had mentioned to him before. She admitted that she had been thinking about it for some time and realized that perhaps she had not been giving him enough of her service before. As a result, she had decided to bring these extra yogurts as a small token, hoping that he would continue supporting her deliveries. Her tone was polite but firm, showing that she took pride in her work and genuinely wanted his continued trust and support. He hesitated, then quietly told her something that caught her completely off guard. He said that, in fact, he had been meaning to tell her that the next time she came, he would like to cancel his regular yogurt deliveries. The words hit her like a shock, leaving her momentarily speechless. Her eyes widened in surprise, and she asked immediately the reason he wanted to cancel so suddenly, struggling to mask her disbelief. She reminded him gently but firmly that he had been receiving all the deliveries she had made so far without ever complaining or refusing them. He looked at her and explained carefully that the reason was simply that he no longer needed the deliveries. She frowned slightly, her mind racing. She was asking if he was canceling because she had not been providing good enough service, or because he was dissatisfied in some other way. He quickly shook his head, speaking sincerely, and assured her that it wasn't because of her service. He confessed that he actually didn't like yogurt much in general and had been receiving the deliveries out of habit or convenience. He apologized earnestly, expressing regret for any disappointment caused her. For a few moments, she stood there silently, trying to process everything. Then, unexpectedly, she asked him if he wanted to drink a beer. He looked at her in genuine surprise, startled by the sudden change in tone. She smiled faintly and said that she would buy the beer for him, adding casually that she also wanted to have one herself.